Welcome to Legacy Cast, where we talk about your story, your way, and what are you doing to make sure that people know about you many generations from now. Good afternoon, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your Legacy Cast program where we talk about you telling your story your way so that the generations that you're going to follow will know what mattered to you, what you did that made a difference in the world, and most importantly, what you believed and what made you tick. So we have a guest here today, Rick Carlson. Rick, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing phenomenal, sir. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you come on the program today. And as the name of the program would suggest, we talk about legacies, but not from the perspective that a lot of people think about, because some people think first it's a money subject, though sometimes that does have something to do with it, but it's not always what's involved, because really it's kind of you telling your story your way so that the people that follow us are going to be able to know what really mattered to you. So what does having a legacy mean to you?
Legacy to me is taking the tools and the lessons that you've learned from everything from your childhood throughout your life, and taking those into practice and building something greater than yourself, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to do with money or wealth. I think it has to do more with how you do things, what you accomplished, and like what you were willing to go after in your life. I think that at the end of the day, like, my kids won't see any of my money really. Like, my money is already allocated to other things. Mm-hmm. As we go. Now there will be a trust and other things in place to make sure they're taken care of, per se.
Sure.
They're not going to have access to anything until they're 45 or 50 years old, and it's going to be up to them to make their way. So, but I don't foresee them. I foresee them having far more money than I ever have had or will have, because I'm building the lessons into them that will give them the tools to be successful in the world. And I raise my kids. Part of my legacy is my kids.
Sure.
And I'm very intentional about it. So with my kids, it's what problems can we solve, and what do I instill in them that our job is to grow up and be successful, not to make a lot of money, but to create a lot of opportunity to help a lot of people. So, and that could look very different for many different people.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad that you brought up the point of, what you're instilling, the lessons, because ultimately, that's our greatest legacy is, we're put on this earth, for a short period of time, but it's what we do with that time that really matters. And, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, in many cases should be our greatest legacy, because, it's the values that we have and the things that we've learned that we put into them, so that they can take that and build upon it and, make the world better because of the fact that we were here. And so,
absolutely.
Joey, I find that that's, really one of the things that should drive a lot of people is looking at it from kind of through those lens, instead of, just looking at it as the dollars and cents subject, but looking at it from the standpoint of, really injecting good positive effect into the world.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that we are the first. I'm 42 years old, and I feel like we're the first generation. I don't know how old you are, but I would say that 35 to 45 or range of parents, we're the first generation that is intentionally parenting our kids, I believe. I don't believe that in most cases our parents and their parents before them necessarily had the tools to instill great lessons in us, because either A, they were just unaware, they weren't educated in the area, and I think in most cases, I know in my case, like my mother, I was raised by a single mother. She was in survival mode. Like, right. She was in survival mode her whole life. She's still in survival mode. And so I don't think that you have a lot of especially with us, like somehow I believe in self-education, and I believe in self-motivation. Nobody's going to do it for you in this world, so you have to go get what's yours. And one of the things that I've started at 9 years old, instilling in my 9-year-old daughter is, what are we going to do today? And she knows the answer. She's like, I'm going to go get what's mine. Okay. And it sounds aggressive, but and believe me, I am criticized for a little bit of the way that I raise my children, but I can tell you in 30 years, I can tell you whose kids are going to be working for who.
That's right. That's right.
And that's just plain and simple. Like, I don't worry about my 9-year-old daughter. I worry about the world.
Sure.
She's already running the show at 9 years old, and it's in a very, she doesn't naturally, like, so for instance, an example of that would be, she was put into a blended 3rd and 4th grade class, and she's in the 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason they put her in that 3rd grade class is because partly is they wanted her to learn how to follow and be led by other students. Well, 2 weeks into the school year, the whole class is following her.
Yeah.
Epic failure.
Yeah.
Epic failure. And so, but that's one of the things that I've instilled in her. And, when she's with, when it's funny because I was talking to her teacher, and her teacher said, I can tell the weeks that she's with you and the weeks that she's with mom, because her mom and I are no longer together. And, the weeks that she's with me, she can do anything. Her attitude is, I can do anything. And then the attitude is very different on the weeks that she's with mom. And so, that's part of the legacy that we should be instilling in our kids, because, she's going to be an entrepreneur when she grows up. Both of her mom at heart is an entrepreneur. She's currently working in the private sector. And I've been an entrepreneur a majority of my adult life. Like, I've had 3 jobs as an adult. I was fired from 2 of them. I'm very proud of that. I'm just not, I'm not the guy. I'm the guy that I feel like I'm the guy that goes and makes it happen. I get up every morning unemployed, going out and making my way in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that just takes a very different person. And I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong way, because I can tell you that there's a lot of times that I wished I was an employee and I could collect a check and go home after 8 hours and be done. But then there's other times where, I decide that I'm going to essentially go down to like 10 hours a week for the next month. And I'm able to do that, or take a week off, and, not necessarily whenever I choose, but once again, it's a matter of the life that you build for yourself, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. I know some extremely successful people that are employees. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And, what I tell people, especially, when they come into my practice is, it's not for everybody. It's certainly, being an entrepreneur is sort of, we're sort of the crazy ones out there, if you will, because, we're up against, we go into something knowing that 90% of the people that go into it fail, but we strive and we hunger for that challenge. And that's what makes us different, is that, we want that, we want to have that challenge and that difference. And, it's kind of like, for example, I'm the world's worst employee. I don't do well working for somebody else because
I'm unemployable. I have to make this work. I'm unemployable.
Well, and that's, that's kind of the same way I look at myself as well, is that, we really should be running our own show, because, working for somebody else is not an option. And I love to hear what you're talking about, teaching your daughter at such a young age, because children are moldable, and it's giving them that knowledge when they haven't learned how to have inhibitions is so very valuable, because she's going to grow up being a force in whatever setting she's in. And when I'm working with people, I'm in a finance world, so when I'm working with people, it's your success is on the other side of the door, or you're going to knock on the door, or you're going to kick it in. Your choice. Absolutely. And if you're the kind of person that wants to kick the door in, then we have a conversation we can have. Yeah, it's
Well, every morning I get up and somebody's got my money.
yeah,
And it's not in a derogatory way, like I'm going to go steal somebody's money. It's that somebody has money that they want to give me for a service that I provide.
mm-hmm.
And regardless of which business of mine it's in, we have to go get that money, because if we don't, somebody else is.
Right.
And what I tell the people that work, I don't have any employees at this point. I was tired of employees, so I fired everybody, and I moved to 1099 contractors. And what I tell them is, as I say, listen, if it comes down to me getting fired and then you getting fired because your lack of performance, I said my family's going to eat before yours. So one of us is going to end up at the bottom, and it's not me. So it's up to you to go do your thing, so that way you can continue to contract with my company to provide for your family. And so I think that not enough people get up with that. You're either a lion or a sheep in this world.
That's true.
And if you're a sheep, you better align yourself with the lion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, kind of given sort of where our conversation has started, I would take it that you feel it's pretty important that people put some thinking into, what their legacy is going to be.
Absolutely. I think that at the end of the day, it's up to you to figure out what. Well, see, the first problem I find that is most people don't. Number one, they don't even know what legacy truly means, or two, they're just. So many people are in survival mode.
Right.
And when you're in survival mode, you're just worried about what's in front of you, keeping your head above water. You're not looking down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road to say, okay, like if I was to quit today and when I quit working, what are we going to look back on a retirement that just gets me through till I die?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we building something that's going to move forward without us and provide for others?
Very true. Very true.
And I think that a majority, and once again, there's nothing wrong with not having that envision of just, there's nothing wrong with just getting through and getting to retirement and living a life and then going on to the next world, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But don't preach that you're this badass dude or this badass woman that's out to change the world, but then you don't do anything to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a fair point. So how would you say that correlates into what you do from a business standpoint, kind of that legacy mindset?
So the best example of that I can give you is throughout my adult life, a couple of times, multiple times. When I say multiple times, like I'd say maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I was unhappy with what I was doing. I was very fruitful in what I was doing. And I essentially walked away from it to go do something else. And in most cases, it had a very little exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's the best example of that I can give you is in 2012. So 2008, I lost everything. Like a lot of people.
Right.
I lost a lot of money. I was on track to semi-retire at 35 and work part-time, and I just needed to make X amount of dollars every year to, per se, feed the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But security-wise, I was fine.
Okay.
And next thing you know, I lost all that and then some. And so 2008, my then longtime girlfriend got pregnant, said, hey, I'm going home. Where is home? That was at the time, that was Post Falls, Idaho, which is in northern Idaho, about 30 minutes east of Spokane, Washington. I had literally only been there once for like 2 days
mm-hmm.
at Christmas, like the year before. I knew nothing about it. And I had no option but to go there and start over. And so long story short, I spent 6 months trying to find a job because I couldn't find a job. The market here is horrible. So I bought a job. I bought a carpet cleaning company.
Okay.
And I had previously been in the business. And the previous owner said the previous year he had done in 2008, he said he'd done about $40,000 in total sales. And essentially it was an equipment buyout because, I had bought and sold a few businesses, and I learned not to trust these people because
Sure.
it never pans out like they say it does. So anyway, bought it in September of '08. The phone didn't ring until May.
Wow.
And it was all the money that I had. And I got lucky and found a job with the only .com in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a consulting position, and I was doing really, really well. That was one of the companies that I got fired from. That was the last company I got fired from. One of the two that I got fired from. And I went from that to back into the carpet truck, because I had cleaned carpet and from like 18 to 23, 24. And so I went back into the carpet truck, and from May of '09 to the end of '09, we did $93,000 in sales.
Okay.
Which, that was me hustling. That was me going out, making it happen. Mm-hmm. And we weren't charging like everybody, like if you're familiar with service businesses, I was doing it $100 clean at a time. I wasn't doing like $600 or $1,000 jobs.
Right.
I was cleaning 3 rooms in a hall for $100, and we were doing 10 of those a day. Like, I was hustling my ass off. So I took that business, because in the area that I'm in, there's only the pie is the same size regardless of who's in it.
Sure.
So if you want a piece of the pie, you've got to take somebody else's piece.
Mm-hmm.
And from '09 to 12, I grew that business to be one of the largest in the area. Mm-hmm. And I dominated the market for a very decent window of time, until I chose to walk away from it. And so I stopped cleaning residential carpet. I had then started a janitorial company. So we basically stopped cleaning residential carpet because it just drove me nuts. I was extremely unhappy, and I was making $150,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I was making $150,000 a year, where in an economy where the average household income was like 40 or 50,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So, so we were, I was doing extremely well for the economy, and I wasn't happy. And my girlfriend, my child's mom, my 9-year-old's mom, said, "I don't understand why you want to do this. Like, this doesn't make any sense, because you make such good money, doing this." Because they don't care about being happy. They want to live the lifestyle they want to live. Mm-hmm. They don't care if you're unhappy, because they want the paycheck in a lot of cases. Which also, by the way, goes back to legacy, because I don't know of anybody that's ever built a legacy on something they were miserable at doing. No.
And, at the end of the day, it really boils down to, you have to do what makes you happy. We're in our creation, we're given certain gifts and talents and traits, and we should, build on those things. That's kind of what makes each of us unique, I think. And so, when we build on those, then we discover, what we're good at, and we're happy at it. And like the saying goes, if you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life. That's where people should be.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that whole thing, because I think there's, even fishermen have shitty days. But I think that, I think that if you really should do what you're happy at a majority of the time. Mm-hmm. But I also think that, for me, I scaled back and restructured my carpet cleaning business to be a janitorial company, which I still own today. Mm-hmm. At this point in time, it's about 95% hands off for me. Okay. And it's what I call mailbox money. So as long as I have the right contractor in place to clean the facilities, my assistant does the billing and I cash the checks. Okay. Now, that being said, it's not like, and I've metered it back a little bit, because I haven't had the right person in place on the ground. And I think I've found that right person. And as soon as they've vetted themselves, mm-hmm. I'm going to blow that business up, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to do something that they never would have had the opportunity to do. I mean, currently she makes $15 an hour to go scrub toilets and empty trashes. Mm-hmm. Nobody else in my marketplace is paying that. Yep. And I still make money. I still make money too. So you can have your cake and eat it too. And this, once again, goes back to the legacy is, I want to be able to provide for the people that are in my inner circle.
Sure.
And no, my assistant, Katie's phenomenal, and she could easily go get a job making more money with somebody else. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
She chooses to stay with me because she believes in the vision and the big picture of the company, and she wants to be part of something bigger than herself. Because every day she knows that I get up and I make decisions based on what's best for the company, not for me.
Right.
And part of the reason I named the company Fancy Ox is because, number one, that was the .com that was available. Mm-hmm. And I wanted something that was different. And I actually trademarked the phrase different, just like you. Mm-hmm. And so I want Fancy Ox to build in such a way that it's going to continue on without me at some point in time. Now, what that looks like, I'm not exactly sure. I think that, as we go along, we massage our legacy to be something more refined than it was before.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with pivoting or as Tony Robbins would say, shift that 2 degrees.
Yeah, and with any strategy, it should be flexible. There's the parable or the Chinese proverb about the trees. Which one is stronger, the oak or the willow? The willow is actually stronger than the oak because it bends with things that come along, and that should be kind of how we do our strategy for our legacies. Is setting it up so that it does give you a roadmap, but there's also some flexibility in it because things will happen, things come up, and it needs to be able to move and ebb and flow with what comes your way, and be able to dodge those shots when they come in.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that we should be non-negotiable on is whether or not we can or can't do something. And, and that's the problem for me is I'm a horrible quitter, almost to a fault. Mm-hmm. I've gotten a little better as I've gotten older, but, whether, I was in a very dysfunctional relationship for a long time with somebody that, I always, one of my biggest flaws is I have more faith in other people than they have in themselves. Yeah. Because the coach in me says, hey, I can evolve this person from here to here. I can help guide them down this path to see that, hey, they have it in them. They just have to do, this, and this, and then they'll have everything they want. And little do they know, I was on a coaching call earlier today with a gentleman who, he's talking about, what he wants to do in his business, this, that, and the other. But the issue lies in the fact that he shortchanges relationships and he has no communication. So he literally goes from one, whether it be business or personal, he goes from one relationship to another without communication because he's not getting what he needs. And he's not getting what he needs because he's not communicating what he needs. And so therefore he's off to the next, and he's off to the next. Rinse and repeat. And then now where do you end up? You end up as that 45-year-old guy who's never been married with no kids, and you've convinced yourself that you're happy. Mm-hmm. But deep down inside, you really know that you missed the boat on some really marvelous people that you could have had in your life had you done things a little differently.
Sure.
And that's not directed at anybody specifically. Mm-hmm. I've known people like that. And, as much as they say they're happy, I can tell you that, I know them personally, and I know that deep down inside, they're not happy.
Yeah. So if you're kind of to look at your business from the CEO standpoint for a minute, what would you say that the things are that sort of keep you up at night? Maybe 2 or 3 things.
I think the few things that keep me up at night are, I've been, in full disclosure, and I know there's a lot of people out there that won't, that wouldn't share this, but, right now my business is in, we're in a little bit of a turmoil, a little bit of shambles right now. Mm-hmm. And it's because I was not as present and active as much as I should have been over the past 18 months. I was going through some very expensive and time-consuming child custody battles.
Okay.
And, at the end of the day, and that once again, that goes back to legacy, because what I figured out, and this isn't to open up a beehive, but, as a father, you have as many rights as you're willing to pay for in the legal system. And, there was no way that I was going to let the legal system push me around to be an every other weekend father at best. And so, I spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of time to ensure that my rights as a father was going to be, I was going to get to spend the time with my kids and see them on a, very good schedule that worked best for them. Because once again, it's not about me, it's about the kids.
Right.
And so, and it's only money. I'll make more money. I don't give a shit about the money. I'll go make more money. I'm great at a lot of things, and I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm great at very few. And, one of the best compliments I ever got from one of my exes was, when it comes to money, I don't have to worry about you and money, because I know you're going to make it. And, and that's coming from somebody that was on the inside for a very long time. So I'm very resourceful, and I'll make it happen, even if it means I have to go scrub toilets and empty trashes. I'm fine to do it. Like, I don't care. I'm not above anything. And I think when you're above something, and it doesn't mean you should go do it as a living, but when you're above something, then you're below everything.
Right. Right.
And so, for me and for me, the biggest thing is I haven't been present because I've been distracted and preoccupied. I hired a new coach this past, I guess it was about a month ago. Yeah, it was about a month ago. We've had 5 weeks ago, I hired a new coach. And she is one of the most expensive coaches I've ever hired. And I didn't have the money to hire her, but I still hired her, and I made it happen. And, one of the things that we figured out is that I evolved into an unhealthy relationship with money. And it was not, I had always gone to work for money because I grew up extremely poor. And so when I started working at 14, I was a 14-year-old kid mowing lawns making $500 a week, because I figured out that I could go get the biggest lawns in the neighborhood and charge them $100 a week, and they were happy to pay it because it saved them a Saturday's worth of time.
Yeah.
And so I just went and got like 5 or 6 of those, and next thing I know, I'm bankrolling the family. I'm paying rent, and I bought my mom a car, and this, that, and the other. And so I basically went to work for money for the first 20 years of my life. And the last 4 years, I said, you know what, I need to go to work for this whole other purpose, like the bigger purpose. Well, it screwed me because the money went away because I stopped going to work for the money. And it was a little backwards in my opinion. So what we figured out is that I'd evolved into this unhealthy relationship with money, and that money was bad, and this, that, and the other. Well, I've since corrected my ways, and I'm back in the game, and I'm back in to make as much money as I can make, because the people around me depend on, if I don't go to work, the people around me depend on me going to work. Sure. I don't go to work. Sure. My assistant doesn't have a job. My bookkeeper doesn't have a client. Like, there's all these people. I mean, and the problem that I'm in is I'm in this middle where I have enough passive income that my bills are paid. And theoretically, I couldn't do it long term, but theoretically, if I don't get out of bed, my bills are still paid every month, and I'm golden for, an undetermined amount of time. The issue lies in that I'm never going to accomplish my goals and dreams if I was to do that. I would just be stuck in the mediocrity, getting by.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of greatness comes from being in a tough bind. I mean, I've started over 3 times as an adult financially, and I'm talking about zero. I mean, at 26 years old, I went through a really nasty divorce, and I literally gave her everything and walked away. And I was $50,000 in debt at 26 years old. And within 6 months, I was $150,000 positive.
Wow. And
so that's where sometimes your greatest accomplishments can come from your greatest disasters.
Sure.
It's all in how you look at it. Like, failure is not most people look at failure as a bad thing. I think failure is a cleansing process that we all need at some point in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
To either A, help you be appreciative of what you have, or B, show you that you really do have the tools inside you to be a great leader and a great success, but you're distracted by all these other things. You know, when I was 27 years old, making $20,000 to $30,000 a month, I thought it would never end. You couldn't tell me shit. I had a $2,000 a month dating budget. Like, it was great to date me at that point in time because we lived the life.
Yeah.
I was living the life. They were along for the ride. Mind you, no sustainable and solid foundation relationships ever came from really any of that. So it was me having fun. That's all it was. Yeah. And so, but I think that at the end of the day, like, we all need that little bit of that restart to help us cleanse and figure out what are our true values, what's our true direction. How do we, in your case, in the podcast case, how do we get to that true legacy? Mm-hmm. to figure out what that is and how to get to it.
Sure. So as far as strategies and having a plan, how do you feel as far as the importance on that? Do you think people should go ahead and go through that process of the traditional setting up a plan and a strategy for themselves and their business?
If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Okay.
Plain and simple. I think that you need to figure out where you're at, where you want to go, and work backwards. So in the real estate space, so I'm a full-time realtor now. Once again, I still own other businesses, but I'm a full-time realtor. And, one of the things we have to figure out is, how many homes do you want to sell this year? Okay. How are you going to do that? Who are you going to sell those homes to? Is it for sale by owners? Is it expired listings? Who is it?
Sure.
So let's say it's expired listings. Well, you break down the number of calls you need to make and the number of contacts you need to do. And basically, in a roundabout numbers, you need to make 20 contacts a day. 20 contacts a day will make you $250,000 a year.
Okay.
That's what the numbers say. So if you're not planning and you're not doing that, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else of not doing that every day. Like today started out rough. It didn't get any better. And as soon as we're done with this call, it's 1:36 in the afternoon Pacific time. As soon as we get done with this call, I'm going to jump on the phones to make my 20 contacts today because I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, then I'm not going to meet my goal for the end of the year. And if I don't meet my goal, I have to look at my kids. Yes. Every day I get in the car and her name is Abby, and Abby asked me, "Hey, Dad, you sell a house today?"
Yeah.
Talk about accountability.
That's right.
I mean, that right there will kick you right in the groin because I have to look at her. Now, she doesn't understand the business. She understands that if I sell a house, we get to go out to dinner. That's what she understands.
Sure.
But she, every day I have to, nope, sweetheart, I didn't. And that right there, we will let ourselves down, but we won't let somebody else down. Right. I don't know why. It's human nature, because we'll feed each other. We'll feed ourselves. I don't know if I can cuss or not, but we feed ourselves this bullshit, these bullshit excuses, and we get away with it. And because we're the only one held accountable. But, like my coach, in my instance, like if I don't accomplish my daily goals, it's $100 a day that I have to send somebody that I don't want to send money to. Right. If I don't accomplish my goals. And I also have to pay a fine to her. So, at the end of the day, it can get very expensive.
Yeah.
That being said, when you have accountability, you'll go to work and you'll do the things that you're supposed to do. So I do recommend getting a coach. Whatever world you're in, you should have a coach. You should have somebody that you're paying to be accountable that is suitable to pay to be accountable to.
Sure. So what do you think the biggest reason is that entrepreneurs fail or give up? In
most cases, they're not an entrepreneur in the first place. They should never have then they should have never gone down that road. Nobody had the guts to stand up to them and say, hey, this isn't good for you. Mm. You shouldn't do this. Because if they truly are an entrepreneur, they'll go prove them wrong. If they're not an entrepreneur, then maybe at the end of the day, they will reflect and say, you know what? You're probably right. I should probably reorganize this. And, you know, if you're truly an entrepreneur, don't go quit your job. You go make your side hustle work until you are making just as much money at that as you are your full-time job. And then you can quit your job, because then you've proven that you can do it.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, or you burn your boats and you just jump in head first and make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. That's sort of the direction I took. Yeah. Burn bridges.
The allure of the life we live is very, you know, my friends and family think that I live this fabulous lifestyle, and I've got, you know, I make all this money. Like, if you ask them, I make millions of dollars every year, which I don't, mind you. But what they only see the fruits of the labor. They only see the rental properties and the cars and the this and the that. And I don't even drive like exotic cars, mind you. Mm-hmm. My goal is to buy a plane. That's the most exotic thing I want to buy, is a plane. But I only want to buy the plane because I want to be able to take my team places and do things and reward them for their commitment and their hard work.
Yeah.
A plane makes zero financial sense. It really does. It makes zero financial sense. So that being said, you know, I'm not doing it necessarily for me. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah, I want to, you know, there's a lot of things I want to do for it, but it doesn't mean that it's the right, you know, thing for me. But I think it's, you know, but my assistant, she calls me out, you know, she uses that tool. She says, does this get us closer to the plane? Mm-hmm. And I say, you're right. It doesn't. So we shouldn't do it.
Yeah. Keeping you accountable. That's pretty important. So as far as your personal values and belief system, how do you incorporate that into your business?
If it's not right, we don't do it, and always be the better person. And, you know, there's countless situations where I feel like I do the right thing, and I feel like I go the extra mile to make sure that when I leave the situation, I leave the situation honorably and on top, mm-hmm. that I did the best I could have done. Now, does that mean that everybody feels the same way on their end? No, not at all. But I can tell you that 99% of them do. And I can tell you that when I go back, I mean, and I get calls on a pretty regular basis of people that want to pull me into stuff, because we've had deals in the past. And, you know, you know, and I think that, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but I think that, you know, your reputation is a huge asset to you.
Yes.
You know, and you know, I'm getting ready to do a deal right now that's going to make me, probably, like, immediately, it'll make me probably $40,000, $40 or $50,000, in equity immediately. And over the next 10 years, it's probably going to make me no less than another $150,000.
Okay.
And the only way that deal is going to go is because of my reputation, because I'm offering them a contract on something, mm-hmm. on a piece of property, and they're not exactly excited about the structure of it because they've been burned in the past. My reputation is what's going to get it done, though.
Right.
Because they're going to talk to other people that I've done deals with and other people I've done business with, and they're going to talk to these people, and these people are going to say, yeah, we've done business with Rick. I do it again in a second. In a heartbeat, I'd do it again. I've always been honorable to my word. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and sometimes that costs you money, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, once again, it's only money. We'll make more.
Sure.
If you're that attached to money, you've got a problem.
Yeah, you're right. Money is a tool. It's not the be all end all.
Money is opportunity. all I'm looking to achieve in life is opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If that opportunity was in the form of M&Ms, I'm going to go get all the M&Ms I can.
Yep.
It just happens to be money, monetary exchange, because monetary exchange creates opportunity, and it's the opportunities of the experiences and the tools that I can leverage through life
Mm-hmm.
to live a better life, the opportunity to live a better life. So that's all we're managing. We're a broker of opportunity is all we are.
Yeah. No, good point. Good point. So what is something that you wish you had done earlier in life that you did not do that you've learned was probably vitally important?
In 2007, I bought into a national restaurant chain, and I had no business doing it. Mm-hmm. And I had a coach at the time who said, "This is a bad idea and you shouldn't do this." And I said, no, this makes a lot of sense, because I'm going to write the check and I'm going to do some consulting and management from in Denver. At the time I lived in Denver. And I said, so, it's a good thing. He says, I don't agree. So I did it. Of course, I was 27 years old. I was 27 at the time when this happened. And next thing you know, like, it started imploding. And because I'm a horrible quitter, I jumped in and I said, no, I'm saving this. Like, I got a lot of money tied up in this. I'm going to save this.
Right.
And I should have stuck to real estate. And so that one thing is sticking. I have this little saying within myself is, stick to what you know and know what you stick.
Yeah.
I should have stuck to what I was great at, not what I was good at, because I'm good at a lot of things. I can build a house. I can fix almost anything. Like, because I grew up so poor, I had to figure out everything because I didn't have the money to hire it. So I had to figure it out. Well, as an adult, that's been detrimental to me, because as opposed to going and focusing on becoming $1,000 per hour real estate consultant, realtor, I said, well, I'm just going to go. This guy's trying to charge me $150 an hour to go do this thing. Well, screw that. I'll just go do it. Mm. And next thing you know, you're consumed by this whole other, and I'm going through this right now with construction. Construction is through the roof, and these guys they wanted $1,500 an hour to run gas pipe. It took me 6 months to find somebody that was actually reasonable. And he charged me $850 to do the whole job. It took him 4 hours. I was happy to pay it. I almost did it myself. Because I was like, I'm not paying this. I can go rent the machine for $100 a day, and I know how to do this. Like, it's not hard. It's not brain surgery. And so, stick to what you're great at, not what you're good at. And then you'll be able to pay for the other things.
That's true. Yeah, that's one of the things that I personally have struggled over the years with my own practice is just being able to delegate. It's that thing of, I want to control so many parts of the business that I've had to learn over the years that I need to step away, and I need to hand off a lot of that stuff because I'm good at certain things and I need to hand those other things off. And at the end of the day, then it becomes it's a moneymaker. But if I spend my time doing those things, then the dollars that I'm worth per hour is much more expensive than what it could be to give it to somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my goal is to bill out $1,000 an hour. Mm-hmm. One of my mentors, his bill out is he's $2,500 an hour.
Yeah.
That's how, and that number comes from what your income taxes for last year divided by the number of hours you worked. Mm-hmm. He made that much money where he was $2,500 an hour. So that being said, it's like, okay, well, shit, I got to step my game up. I got to make this happen. Because I'm not even, I don't know. I don't know what I'm at this year, but I can tell you I'm probably $100 an hour right now. Which I'm not frowning at. Like, there's nothing to balk at. Mm-hmm. But that number is not going to help me serve others.
Yeah. It's not where you want to be.
It's not where I want to be, and it's not going to help me accomplish my goals and dreams, and it's not going to help me provide for the people around me, not just my family,
Sure.
but I have people in my inner circle that have been with me for a long time. They've proven their dedication and worth to me.
Right.
And so they're along for the ride too. They're part of the program as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't have just a responsibility to my kids.
Sure.
I have responsibility to those people that are on my inner circle, because they're the ones, no matter what, they show up.
And that kind of, I'm glad you are mentioning that, Rick, because that falls all in within the confines of legacy, because as a leader, the things that we do are going to impact other families, whether it be our employees or the vendors that we work with, other companies that we're partnered with. It's that snowball effect. And so, we really have to be mindful of that the more profitable we become, the more dependent other people become on, our particular business. And so we have to really keep that in check, and just make sure that we're aware that, all of our decisions do affect, many other layers. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's also our responsibility to not, because what I tell everybody is that it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about what's best for the company. Mm-hmm. And so there are times that I have to hold those people in my inner circle accountable.
Sure.
You're not doing what's best for the company. Like, you need to pull your head out of your ass and make this happen, because you've said you can do it, you've agreed to do it, and you're not doing it. Yeah. Plain and simple. So you either make it happen, or a change has to be made.
Yep.
Now, if you're on the inner circle per se, I don't have to have that conversation very often. Mm-hmm. But I have a very great relationship with everybody that's in my inner circle, and a lot of times it just takes me having to say, hey, like, you want to pull your head out of your ass and make this happen, or like, what's going on? Like, what do we got to do to help you figure this out? Because you've proven yourself that you deserve to be here. Mm-hmm. But it's up to you to maintain that performance to stay here.
Sure.
Success is rented, and the rent's due every day.
Yep. So if you were to kind of look at yourself on an inward level, what would you say that your greatest strength is?
My greatest strength is going to be, I believe, my vision and the ability to execute it. Mm-hmm. I'm very active in the full process. I've gotten better about delegating, and I've gotten better about conveying my vision and what I see as the direction, I should say. Okay. So I think that earlier I mentioned that I'm a horrible quitter. Well, I've gotten better at quitting per se, and in the sense of like, okay, well, is this really something that I should be doing? Whatever it is. Sure. Does it go the direction does it contribute to the direction? Because if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Right.
And too often we find ourselves saying yes to things that we should be saying no to.
You have a point. You do have a good point there. So on the flip side of that, what would you say your greatest weakness would be then?
My greatest weakness would be while I think I have a great deal of discipline, mm-hmm. I don't have nearly the amount of discipline that it takes to get me where I want to go. I'm not the person that I need to be to accomplish the things I want to accomplish. And I think that over time, when you recognize that, what happens is you either actively pursue that person and build yourself into that person.
Sure.
Or it's a pipe dream that's never going to happen. And I know so many people that are just like, oh yeah, I'd love to do this, or I'd love to do that. Well, they're fully capable of it. They've just chosen not to do it because it's too hard, it's too expensive, it's too this. I literally just had this conversation with somebody very close to me on Saturday, how, you know, they've without even realizing it, they say to their son, well, we can't afford that. And I had the conversation. I said, you don't realize that you're giving him an excuse as an adult not to accomplish things because they can't afford it. You have to change the narrative, pivot a little bit to evolve it to work where they have to work for what they want. So it's delayed in time for them to get it. And then when they get it, they feel like they've earned it. My 9-year-old has a carbon copy work pad, like a receipt pad. And she writes me invoices for things that she does around the house. And she gives me a bill, and then I pay the bill.
Good deal.
Sometimes I make her send it to collection so she can understand we don't always get what we want. So I think that, you know, you have to be conscious and pay attention to what you're doing and saying. And so now I've already forgotten the question, but
yeah, we're talking about your weakness.
Oh, my weakness. Yeah, I think that, you know, for me, it's I don't have the discipline that I need at times to accomplish the things that I want to set out. That being said, I've recognized it and I'm addressing it, but it's a daily battle. You know, I haven't worked out in probably like 2 weeks, but I worked out every day for the last six months. But, you know, the ice cream and, you know, the abs are starting to disappear, and you know, the dad bod is coming back, and, you know, killing it.
So if you're to describe maybe at a very high level the process behind what you do in your business, what would that be?
The short answer is I help people realize the dream of home ownership within my real estate business, because that's my primary business. The long answer is I help people build a lifetime of wealth through real estate. So the few clients that actually listen to me, because it's amazing how, you know, I sit down with a young couple. When I say young couple, they could be any age, but I sit down with a couple and I say, hey, what's your goals? You know, and these are conversations that I'm not having with anybody else. And I say, what's your goals? And they say, well, you know, we want to buy a house. And I say, well, what if you could buy real estate in such a way that by the time you hit 40 years old or 45 years old, and usually these people are in their early, mid, late 20s. I said, what if I could show you a way by the time you hit 40 or 45 years old, you could quit working and have $20,000 a month residual income that you really don't have to do a lot for. And their eyes light up and they're like, this is great. I love it. What is it? And I say, okay, let's go buy a multifamily. You're going to live in a multifamily, a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. And then you're going to do that for the first 2 years. And then after that, we're going to move every 12 months after that. We're going to go buy a new multifamily every 12 months after that, because definition of owner occupied is 12 months. But I need 2 years on your Schedule E for that first 24 months for you to be considered a landlord with the lenders. And after that, you're rolling. So by the time you get to 45, you've acquired, 12, 15 properties, and now you're starting to pay them off. Your cash flow is becoming stupid, and you're just like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to spend this money on. And then now you're going to buy more properties because you don't have anything else to spend it on. Like, you can only do so much. And so, but you want more income, like more residual. And so, so those people that listen to me, they do exceptionally well over time. But in general, this is categorizing, but in my experience, the wife says, I don't want a neighbor. I don't want to share a wall with somebody. And the husband's always like, yeah, let's do this. Let's make it rain up in the club. Like, this is great. But the wife is usually like, no, I don't want a neighbor. I don't want to live in an apartment. And so that is the core of what I do. Like, I want to help build generational wealth. Like, could you imagine getting to 50 years old and retiring, making 10 grand a month and putting 10 grand a month in savings, and then putting all this properties in a trust that you then that then takes care of your kids and your grandkids.
Right.
You know, the mayor of one of my local towns, he's a slumlord, and he owns all the low income apartments, and he's probably worth $25 million. At a minimum, he's worth $25 million. Talk about generational wealth. He started with nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the core of what I do, is I help people realize like there is a plan and there is a way out. You know, I was the only white kid in the projects for 5 years. I got my ass handed to me every day because I was white. Like, you know, I say that anybody can do it. Like, realistically, anybody can do it. I just wanted more. I wanted out. And the only thing that I had going for me is I was a horrible quitter and I was a hard worker. I'm not the smartest guy in town, but you won't outwork me. Go home, spend some time with your family, because I'm going to go to work. I'm going to keep working to provide for mine.
Yeah. Yep.
That being said, I spend a lot of quality time with my kids, just so we're clear. Like, I don't abandon my family. They know me. They know who I am. They love me. And we spend a lot of quality time together.
And at the end of the day, yeah, that's really where it all matters.
Absolutely.
And it's quality of life. So to kind of wind up our time together this afternoon, if you could tell me something about you that nobody else knows, what would that be?
That's a great question. You know, I guess I don't know what that would be, but my inner circle, you know, I have a thing for cars. I buy like the most random stuff ever. Like, I have a 1951 International dump truck. I've got a 91 Scamp travel trailer that was a dog grooming trailer. It started out as an RV, and then it got turned into a dog grooming trailer. And I bought it to take it back into an RV. And 2 weeks ago, I bought a total fluke. I had no intention of buying it, but I bought a 30-foot national, a 1989 national bus. It's like the shuttle bus at the airport.
Right.
And so like boxy thing that, you know, and I found one that, you know, had 37,000 original miles on it, and it was in pretty good condition. Not perfect by any means, but it was in pretty good condition. And I'm like, I could totally turn this into a badass RV. So I bought it, and, you know, I parked it in I've got a rental property, and I use the backyard as kind of like my parking lot. And so I put it in the backyard. And so probably here in the next, as we get a little closer to winter, things are going to slow down a little bit, and I'll start tearing it apart and turn it into an RV. So I like to buy like random, like cars that I think that are like unique and fun.
That sounds interesting.
So, you know, I don't know how, you know, but, you know, it's not one of those, you know, but I'm not looking for like the, you know, $80,000 classic car, you know, kind of thing. And I'm not dumping like, you know, 50 grand into these things. You know, my own little hoopty fleet, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been, you know, a lot of fun, very interesting having a conversation with you today, Rick. And I'd love to have you on the program again down the road, you know, if that's something that you're open to.
Absolutely. No, it was a good time. And, you know, anytime that we can throw some good stuff out and help impact others and help them to go live their dream, I'm always down for that.
And so, you know, people need to reach out to you, I'm sure. So, you know, what's the best way for them to get to you?
They can email me, Rick at fancyox.com, FANCYOX.com. And then, or they can, you know, find me on Facebook, Rick Carlson. I've got a couple of different pages that they can locate me on. So, pretty easy guy to find, you know, and I'm always down to help and contribute in any way that I can. I do a lot of work with veterans and do a lot of work with single moms as well. So anything I can do to help those people, you know, realize their dreams and live to their full potential, I'm always down.
Outstanding. Well, it's been, you know, a pleasure and an honor to have you on the program, and, you know, see you down the road, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.